Hi, John Morgan here with Bob's Market and Greenhouses, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And, well, I've got a pretty good episode planned for this week. The first thing that I want to do is remind you that right now you can head over to our website at bobsmarket.com, and up at the top of the site there is a gold banner. And if you click on that, you can enter to win a cool prize that we're going to be giving away. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to be giving away this month yet. But each month throughout this year, to celebrate 50 years of Bob's Market, we're going to be giving away a prize. So head over and sign up for that drawing. Here at the end of this week, we're getting down to the end of the month, so the window to sign up for this month's drawing will close, and then next month we'll start all over again. So right now we have a lot going on out in the greenhouse, and I wanted to do kind of a greenhouse update and kind of give you a behind the scenes look at what we have going on. And what I wanted to show you this week is something that's actually tied to what we're going to be doing a little bit later. So let's take a look at our cutting operation. Today I'm down at our field house facility, and we call it the field house because it's simply the greenhouse in the field behind Bob's house. It's one of the original greenhouses, or well, original areas here at Bob's. The greenhouses have been replaced over the years. They're much newer. In fact, this greenhouse has heated floors in it. But this area is home to our rooted liners. And a lot of the finished product that we produce in the springtime, so things like 4.5-inch pots and hanging baskets, they get their start as cuttings that we get in from Costa Rica, El Salvador, and all over the place. And those get stuck by hand and rooted. So behind me, we have cuttings that are kind of in different stages of growth, and some of them are just getting started. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so that's what's happening in the greenhouse right now, and we grow a ton of cuttings every year. In fact, this week alone, they're sticking something like 50,000 cuttings all by hand, and that's just insane. So this spring we grow around 100,000 hanging baskets, and around 100,000 or so other units of potted stuff that gets grown from cuttings. So that kind of ties into our Bob's Live episode, because this week I wanted to talk about this house plant right here. And the cool thing about it is really easy to grow, and you really get a lot of bang for your buck with it. So let's check that out. Alright, there we go. This is a really weird camera angle. And that's because I wanted to get this plant in the picture along with this. Because today I'm going to be showing you how you can easily propagate pothos. Wait, no, pothos. Porthos was the character in the Three Musketeers.
Pothos the pirate! Pirate? I told you I was famous.
That's something else. Anyhow, it's the middle of winter, and it's pouring down the rain outside. It's cold and dreary, and now's actually a great time to work on houseplants. And this variety is so easy to propagate that all of the pothos that I have in my office, I've got this one, and there's actually one back behind the camera that we'll take a look at in a second. But these were all grown from the same mother plant that is about 10 years old at this point. But it's super easy to propagate. You can either propagate it in soil. These are the most recent cuttings that I've taken, and they're about 6 months old at this point. It's really slow growing when you first take cuttings. But these I rooted directly in soil. Today I'm going to show you how you can skip the soil rooting step and root them in water, which can be a little bit easier if you're a beginner and just getting started with houseplants. This pot that I have this in, it's a really cool pot because this inner pot is porous, and then you put the water in the outer chamber, you just drop it in, and then the water soaks through, and for me it is perfect for regulating the moisture to get this guy to root. So, let's talk about rooting. So this is the other pothos in my office, and this is actually the one I'm going to be taking the cutting from, that I'm going to root in water. And before I moved into this office a few months ago, I had this setting on a plant stand, kind of in an area where one of the vines, this guy right here, was in the back. So because it wasn't getting very much light, most of the leaves fell off of it. So what I'm going to do is actually trim it back up there to promote it to kind of branch out and produce new leaves up at the top. And actually a large section of this vine I'll actually just be discarding. But something that you can see here along the vine, and you can see them right here at the nodes and then right here, those are aerial roots. Because in nature, the way this plant grows is it'll grow along the ground until it hits a tree, and then these aerial roots will start to grip the trees and climb up the tree. But that also makes it really easy to propagate because you've already got roots growing on the vine. So basically I could take a cutting right behind one of these nodes, stick it in water, and it'll start to produce roots. So that's what we're going to do. Here is pretty much everything that we need to take the cuttings. And really all that we need is a pair of scissors. And I don't have like fancy pruning scissors because, you know, it's house plants, it's in my office, I'm not messing with them that much. So what I'm going to do is I have some isopropyl alcohol here. This is 91%. It's actually what I use to clean camera equipment and do other IT type stuff. But I'm going to take that and just rub down my scissors just to kind of get any goop off of them and also sterilize them. So that should be pretty good. Let these set and dry for a bit. And the only other thing that we need is a container of water to root them in. And actually, I've used this container before when I propagate ZZ plants. The easiest way to propagate them is in water. And I actually use this container for it. In fact, on the sides it's got some calcium deposits where it evaporates and I have to replenish the water. Alright, so here is the vine that I'm going to be taking the cutting from, and it has a really nice bunch of leaves here at the end of it. And what I want to do is come back a couple nodes from the leaves. And what I'm going to do, so I can give myself plenty of room to play with, is I'm actually going to come back to like right in here and make a 45-degree angle cut. Now, if you're doing this on a plant that has leaves on it, what you would want to do then is, if you're planning on leaving the rest of this vine, is you would want to come back to the next node where normally there will be a leaf coming out, and then make another 45-degree angle cut. And what that would let it do is it would allow it to branch and keep on growing. What I'm going to do is go on up to the top of the pot and trim it back up there. I pulled this pot down from the top of the bookshelf so you can see what I'm dealing with up on top, because we really couldn't see that. And, well, got baby Groot here. Let me set him aside. I do have a few fresh starts that are coming up. So this is pretty new growth right here. This is new growth. And this new growth right here is actually coming off of the vine that I just cut back. So that's what I want to kind of cut back, and I'm going to cut it like right there. And that way it can put all of its energy into this new growth. So I've got a couple longer vines here that'll still trail down over the side of the bookshelf and look beautiful. But I'm really encouraging a lot of new growth up here that's going to come out and eventually kind of revitalize this plant. And like I said, this is the mother plant that I've taken cuttings from, and you can see some older growth back here that's kind of decayed and all nasty. But you know, this plant is about 10 years old. I've repotted it a couple times, but you know, it is doing, frankly, pretty amazing for its age. Here is the cutting that I took, and you can see those aerial roots all the way down the side of the vine here. And I think what I'm going to do is just put it in as is and not trim this back, because the way it's shaped, I think it'll actually help hold it inside the container. Now, with taking a cutting like this, it's not like a succulent where you need to let the cut end callus over. You can just dunk this straight into the water and go. So, yeah, I think that's going to work good, just putting it in like that. And, well, we're done. Now it's just a waiting game for roots to form. So we'll check back in a few weeks and see how it's doing. Today I'm up at our Belpre market, and a common question that I get is, what is the difference between pothos and philodendron? They look really similar and they're kind of hard to tell apart. But when it comes down to it, they are separate genuses within the same family, Aeraceae. And I'm probably butchering the Latin name. But yeah, so they're obviously separate species, but they're also separate genuses. But their care is very similar. They have very similar light requirements, very similar feeding requirements. In fact, they don't need a lot of fertilizer at all. And they look really similar. So right behind me right here, we actually have a mix of pothos and philodendron. So let's take a closer look so we can kind of learn the differences. So right here we have some philodendron and pothos directly side by side. So you can really start to see the differences. This is the philodendron. Usually their leaves are much darker than pothos. And they also tend to not be as variegated. although I'll show you a variegated variety here in just a second. Also, younger leaves on pothos, like this one, tend to be a little bit waxy. And this one's also kind of waxy. And just feeling the leaves, pothos tends to have a little bit firmer leaf whenever you kind of hold it and touch it, where philodendron feels a little bit softer. And down here, I was talking about variegated philodendron, so this is an example of the type of variegation that you might see in a philodendron. Whereas this Marble Queen pothos, you can tell that it has a lot of difference in how it's variegated. So both plants, you can have variegation. So yeah, it does make them tricky to tell apart. And up here we have another philodendron. And you can see this has just absolutely gigantic leaves. But again, it's a much darker leaf and they're really soft leaves. Alright, so that is the quick and easy way to root pothos. And I've moved this guy to a smaller jar since I initially took the cutting. Actually did that video, let's see, it was last week, kind of the middle of last week. And I noticed already that the little aerial roots, they're already starting to kind of swell up and grow a little bit bigger. So yeah, this is a really easy way to root pothos. One of the challenges, though, if you root them in water, is it can be a little bit harder initially whenever you transplant them. It can cause a little bit of transplant shock. So that's the only downside of using this method that I've seen. Whereas with the other method of just rooting them directly in the soil, sometimes it's successful, sometimes it isn't. So I guess really either way, you have about the same odds. So yeah, I'm going to give this route a try. I've always done soil rooting, but I've seen a lot of people use this method for rooting pothos, so I'm going to give it a shot. And see, I'm checking the comments over here to see if anybody had any questions. I don't see any questions. I do see that my sister-in-law, Sarah, is watching. And today just happens to be her birthday. So, happy birthday, Sarah. And, yeah. One last thing before I go. Be sure to head over to bulbsmarket.com where you can sign up to win this month's prize. Where we're celebrating 50 years of Bulbs Market. And of course, until next time, keep growing. You're still watching? I'm done. Well, since you're still here, head over to bulbsmarket.com and check out our website. We've got some really cool stuff over there, like the Keep Growing podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, smash that notification bell, and all that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.